Alright, so hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how I make my DIY surgical masks. They look like this. They do have elastic. They compress. This is how it looks when it's finished. To make the template to cut out your masks, you can use just a regular sheet of paper or use a paper folder to make mine so that it's a little thicker. So I start by measuring my piece of paper. So this folder is actually exactly 9 inches. So I'm just going to measure up 6 inches. So I'm going to mark 1/4 inch on both top and bottom. So these will be my seam allowances. I'm going to make these solid lines just so I remember. So now you're going to want to mark top and bottom. This way you'll be consistent when you go to pleat your fabric. So I'm going to line my ruler up with the 1/4 seam allowance. And I'm first going to mark 1 1/2 inches. So do a solid line, 1 1/2 inches. This is going to be the top of a pleat. And then we're going to down another 1.5 inches. So at 4. This will be the next top of my pleat. And then the last top of the pleat will be at 5.5 right here. So top of pleat, top of pleat, top of pleat. You're gonna gather the fabric 1/2 inch before, 1/2 inch after. So I'm gonna do dotted line, 1/2 inch before, 1/2 inch after. That's where we're gonna actually pinch the fabric up to make the pleat. So same for this last one, dotted line, 1/2 inch up, dotted line, 1/2 inch down. And then I'm going to go over and repeat the exact same thing on this side, keeping it consistent. So this is your final pattern. The next step you want to do is cut your elastic. So you can use ribbon, you can use string. If you already have 1/4 inch elastic, you can use that. I was not able to find 1/4 inch elastic, but I have a knit elastic that I'm going to cut into sections and show you how you can turn knit fabric into different sizes. So first I'm going to measure out 7 inches. Those are going to be the size of my ear loops. So 7-inch band is on this side. Mark 7 inches on this side. Then you cut straight across the entire piece. Now, if you look closely, knit elastic doesn't give. That way you can cut it in between these lines. So I'm going to measure 1/4 inch. I'm going to start here. So this is 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then in between the two, 1/4. Between these two, you're going to want to cut right in between the lines. It may not always land right in between, but you want to cut right in between. So you're going to cut 1, 2 cords over. So with my scissors, I'm just going to take this, go 1, 2, and start cutting. So there's a piece. So you want to be careful not to cut any of the individual elastic cords running through. So now you have 2 pieces of 1/4 inch elastic that you can use to make your mask. Tip: stretch out your elastic. It's gonna get gross. So the leftover fabric between the elastic strands will pull apart. It's not gonna stay. This is a knit fabric, so the extra threads that used to be held together are no longer holding those pieces together anymore. So pull these out, a little bit of stretch, let the extra things fly off, and then discard these materials. Because if you were to give this to someone without have done that, they would think the mask is falling apart. Or if you plan on washing this before giving it to someone, all these little fibers will come off in your washing machine. So it's best to just do this now and get rid of that extra bit. So the next piece is cutting out your fabric. Use your template to cut out at least 2 sheets of your fabric. I've already cut out several of mine here. It's a rectangle, so it makes it easy to cut out multiple ones at a time. So I'm going to lay the right sides facing together. So now I've got the 2 different pieces of fabric here. So this is going to be the opening for which I turn out my fabric. So I'm going to take my pen, I'm going to mark 3 inches to 6 inches. So it's 3 inches in, no, it's a little more than 3 inches, but 3 inches in, 3 inches in. So I'm going to sew just this 3-inch seam allowance and then this 3-inch. And then I'm going to sew directly along the bottom. Backstitch, sew all the way until the 3-inch mark, backstitch. And then I'm going to do it again on this side. And then I'm going to backstitch, sew the entire length of the bottom piece, and then backstitch again. All right, so now you've got the seam, so 3 inches on the top and then a full seam on the bottom. You're gonna trim your excess thread. So now you're gonna take your elastic and you're gonna attach your elastic. So after stretching it out, usually it has some type of natural curve to it. So follow the natural curve. So we're doing this inside out. So you're gonna want the curve to go into the mask. So you're gonna open the side pocket. You're gonna stick the elastic in there. Try to get it as flat as possible. Don't want it to be twisting. And on the diagonal, as close as you can to the seam, you're gonna pin the elastic in place. Then you're gonna take it, kind of feel it, make sure it's flat, and pull it down a little bit, have it poking out just a little bit. Get it as close to the seam as you can, and then pin it in place. You're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So this elastic has some natural curve. The curve is gonna go in to the pocket. Get it as close to the seam as you can on a diagonal and pin it in place. So now that you have your elastic in place, you're gonna straight sew both sides of this mask, and you're gonna back stitch over each elastic to ensure that it stays in place. So I actually start by back stitching over the elastic. I do this by first removing the straight pin and holding it in place. Drop the foot just behind the elastic and put the machine in reverse. As I get closer to the second piece of elastic, I slow down and remove the straight pin. I go over it, and then I back stitch over the elastic to keep it in place. Then I'm gonna cut the excess thread from my mask and discard it. First part is done. So now you're gonna take your mask and fold it inside out. Your elastic should be in the corners. You should still have a little pocket open. And you're gonna wanna iron your mask. Line your mask up, top of the mask, which is, this is the 1/4 seam allowance. I like to draw a little dot where the dash lines are. So this lets me know these are the places where I'm actually gonna pinch my fabric. This is gonna be the top of it. So dash line, and draw a dot, last dot. So these are the locations I'm gonna pinch my fabric to create my pleats. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. And the last one. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna take Keep your bobby pins close. So you're gonna place your fingers on either side. You're gonna pinch your fabric up, your thumbs over your index fingers, and lay them down. So you put your fingers on either side of the dots. Pinch your fingers together. Push your thumbs down. That is the first and top pleat. And then keep your hands on the pleats and finger press the fabric in place. So you're gonna press that down. So then you're gonna take a pen or some type of clip or holder and use that to secure your fabric. You're gonna secure your fabric. So that's your first pleat. Now, these are your dots. So then you go to the next set of dots here. Do the same thing. Grab either side, pinch, pull it, fold your thumbs over. Be very careful when you're finger pressing because now you've got straight pins in. And you're gonna grab them, pinch, pull, fold over. Be careful when you're finger pressing because you have straight pins in your fabric. So you want to create a pleating system where you get overlapping fabric like this. Same on the opposite side. So now what you're going to do is you're going to sew all the way around your mask, sewing very slowly, very gently over these pleats, and then you will also be closing up this hole right here. So I like to start at one of my edges, go down before I start doing my pleats. All right, now you're going to remove the straight pins. All right guys, thank you so much for watching my mask tutorial. This is the finished product. And it is fully reversible since I did decide to use two different pieces of fabric.